Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Suhaga, and I am the Managing Director of the Community Development Group at the ARC. I will also be the moderator today. If you are new to the series, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back to another segment of the ARC training webinar series created with the express goal of helping our local governments understand and navigate the challenges associated with COVID-19. Today's webinar is a joint effort of the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Council for Quality Growth, an organization that has been working closely with our development partners and local governments to ensure continued dialogue and engagement during these uncertain times. Their staff has been instrumental in pulling together this event, and I want to say a big thank you to Michael Parrish and Kimberly Steele. At this time, I will turn it over to Michael to welcome our attendees.
We go. Hey, Sam, thank you very much. This is Michael. I appreciate the opportunity to co-host with the ARC and everything that you guys are doing. We really do appreciate it. And I want to welcome everybody to this webinar on behalf of the council. And I want to especially welcome our community partners and appreciate all the work that you guys are doing under really stressful times. And I think that everyone that's on the line should recognize who's on the development community side, the hard work that all of our folks in community development have done across the region to keep business going. And I think it's been a singular effort and intent on everybody's part in our cities and counties to keep business rolling. And I appreciate all the work that you folks in the trenches are doing. So I look forward to hearing from Jessica and from Brantley. This is a great lineup, and we're going to learn a lot today. So again, thank you all for being with us. Sam?
Yep, thanks, Michael. So in today's webinar, like Michael just mentioned, we will hear from two of our region's leading planning professionals about how they're continuing to provide municipal services we all depend on while also complying with the state's shelter-in-place requirements. Before we get started, I wanted to go over a few instructions for all attendees. I know all of you want to hear from our speakers as soon as possible, but this way I can get all the boring stuff out of the way now. And by the way, by boring, I mean important. Bear with me just for a couple minutes. First, about the GoToWebinar platform we're using today. We've taken a screenshot of the attendee panel, which should be coming on your screens just about now. So again, as it says, the platform that we have and the screenshot that you have in front of you, you should have something like this appear on the upper right corner. Throughout the webinar, you will have the opportunity to submit questions or comments by typing into the questions pane of the control panel at the bottom right. You may send in questions at any time during the presentation. In fact, we encourage you to send in the questions throughout the presentation. I promise to try to get to as many as we can, but do not worry. If we don't get to your question, we will have all our speakers' contact information at the end so you can reach out to them. We will also be recording today's webinar and posting all the presentations to our website. You will also be receiving a follow-up email, and all the content, like I mentioned, should be posted on our COVID page at atlantaregional.org. If you click away to another application or browser, have trouble finding our meeting again, look for either the blue flower petal icon in your ribbon bar at the bottom of your screen, or look in one of the open browser tabs. You will also receive a survey after the meeting via email, and we'd really appreciate any feedback that you would like to share with us about this webinar or suggest topics for future webinars. And for now, what you all have been patiently waiting to see and hear about, Our speakers today are Jessica Gwynn and Brantley Day. In her role as the Community Development Director for Cobb County, Jessica leads a team of 125 professionals in providing planning, zoning, economic development, development and inspections, erosion control, business license, and code enforcement services for her home county. As the Community Development Director for the City of Woodstock since 2015, Brantley oversees all the development services and building and code enforcement operations for the city. He has held several leadership roles in local governments and CIDs across Metro Atlanta prior to joining Woodstock. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Jessica to go over her presentation. Jessica, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Sam. I had unmuted myself, but didn't quite get unmuted by you, apparently. Okay, here we go. Okay, so as Sam said, I'm the Community Development Director here for Cobb County. I've been here for about a year. Community Development in Cobb includes 8 divisions. There's the Administration Division, Business License, Code Enforcement, Development Inspections, Erosion and Sediment Control, Economic Development, Planning and Zoning. About 130 staff, so we've got a pretty good sized group. And as I'm sure most of you experienced as we were preparing to face this pandemic, trying to organize all those pieces and figure out how do we continue doing what we do in spite of the health issue was certainly a challenge. So as we started thinking about what does it mean for our agency, how do we handle this COVID-19 event? You know, everything moved so quickly. I remember I was in bed one night and just started thinking about all this. My wheels are just turning. I couldn't sleep because I'm thinking about all the things that we need to take into account and, you know, again, continue to provide services. So the next morning I met with my staff. We had a great talk with our management team there, kind of brainstorming how are we going to continue to provide our services. And through that, of course, our goals were just like I'm sure most of yours were. We wanted to first and foremost maintain the health and safety of our staff, also the health and safety of those we serve, but continuing to provide a high level of service and keeping the local economy moving. One thing that I've reiterated to our team here at Community Development several times is, you know, you see so many posts on social media and elsewhere about the heroes in this crisis, and certainly the healthcare workers and the grocery store employees and all those folks are certainly critical. But as I've shared with our staff, I feel like what we're doing here, the work that we're doing, is really critical to how we're going to recover from all this. And it's important, you know, in Cobb County, the development industry is a very important industry for us, and so doing our best to try and keep that moving right now in spite of the COVID-19 crisis has been very important to all of us. So for our initial response, as we were talking about it, we had a couple of phases. And the other thing that I've just reiterated time and time again is, you know, there is no playbook for this. We're all sort of flying by the seat of our pants and making it up as we go. Sometimes we try something, it doesn't work. We say, okay, let's do something different. And so that's had to be our attitude. I think we've all had to really learn to be flexible during this time. So thinking about our essential services, and as we really thought about it, all of the things that we do are pretty essential. You know, obviously providing permits and building inspections, site inspections, all of that's critical. You know, we're in the heart of business license renewal season, and, you know, businesses are counting on us to be here so that they continue moving forward. Thinking through, okay, well, we thought about what's essential. What can we do remotely? One thing that I'm a little embarrassed to admit here in Cobb County is that we're not exactly on the cutting edge of technology. There are a lot of things that could not be done remotely, a lot of things that couldn't be done online, and this has really kind of ripped the Band-Aid off for us and forced us in a lot of ways to find new ways to do things that don't require people coming into the office. So we've got a good number of our staff are at this point working remotely, and also then thinking about what requires physical presence in the office. Obviously, it's really hard to do building inspections if you're at home, so thinking through those things and how do we continue to provide those services. The other thing we talked about, of course, was how do we create social distance? When we initially started this, and Cobb County entered into its first emergency order, I believe on March 15th, and then or 16th, and then that Wednesday, so it was a Monday, and that Wednesday was when we started what the county called limited operational services. And when we went into that limited operational services phase, at first we were not restricting public access to our building. We were still open to the public. People could still come in the building. However, at that point, we greatly reduced our staff physically in the office. We went down to really just a skeleton crew, and we're sort of rotating our staff in and out. So we would have maybe one permit tech here, maybe a couple of plan reviewers, a couple of folks working in business license, those sorts of things, maybe one planner down in zoning. So we kept it very limited, and then we very much restricted access in and out of the building. So if we had people coming to visit us, coming to drop off plans, renew a business license, all those sorts of things, we were only allowing 2 people from the public in our lobby at any given time. So there's always someone there having to kind of do crowd control. We shut down every day for an hour for lunch, and during that hour at lunch, I was out there myself in the lobby disinfecting things, and of course, just trying to do the best that we could to make sure that we were maintaining a healthy environment for everyone. So that was initially where we were, but eventually I think the county, not just our office, but the county as a whole, saw that really we needed to do more. As we looked at that, we decided that we really needed to fully restrict public access to our building. We further reduced the number of staff coming into our office. And we started that, I believe, March 26th was when we actually closed the lobby to the public and closed the building to the public. And so we had about a week there that we were in that limited operations service mode. During that week, I think it gave us time to kind of figure out how we could push more and more stuff online, how we could do more and more remotely, getting employees VPN access, laptops, all of those things so that people could more successfully work from home. And we were able at that point then to move more of our employees to a work from home status. And just to kind of give you an overview of the things that we're doing here now, business license, as I said, we're really still kind of in the heart of renewal season here. One thing we did prior to all of this is we really pushed hard to get online renewals of business licenses this year. In the past, Cobb County had mailed out about a 10-page packet to all of our business license holders that they would fill out and they would bring to the office, or they would mail it or what have you. This year we really pushed online renewals, and it was great for us because it got money in the bank quicker. It was certainly more convenient for our businesses, but having that process already in place was definitely a lifesaver as we were faced with COVID-19. Another thing, there were some things that we had to get approval from the board for. One thing that's in our code, our alcohol code, is very antiquated and certainly needs to be cracked open and reworked. The alcohol code requires that all regulatory fees for alcohol be paid through certified funds. Obviously, we don't want to have people bringing or mailing checks in right now. So we had to get the board to actually authorize us to accept payment by credit card over the phone for alcohol. I expect that's one of those things that we'll probably keep around. We'll have to update the ordinance, but down the road, I think that's certainly going to be something that's going to be an enhanced efficiency for us. Penalties and late fees were supposed to come into effect April 1st for business license renewals. And we also asked the board to waive those to give us a couple of extra months. I believe we've waived it till June before penalties kick in on business license renewals, and also we've waived our late fees on our excise payment taxes. But I'll say the workload in business license has not slowed down. One thing that's been interesting, and I know some planning departments have business license, some don't. One thing that's been interesting for us though is with the stimulus, so many of the benefits that are available to businesses, especially small businesses, require that you produce documentation of a business license. So all of a sudden there's a scramble for all these businesses coming out of the woodwork to get a business license. So business license is staying very busy with that. Code enforcement is another piece of our shop here. And with code enforcement, what we've done is we've reduced our staffing, but we've kind of had to ramp that up a little bit as we're starting to get into grass and weed season. But what we've done is we've limited our code enforcement officers from coming into the office at all. So they come to work, they get straight in their truck and head out to do their inspections. They do not get out of their trucks when they're out in the field. They stay in their truck. Citations are not issued face-to-face. We now mail all of our citations right now rather than dealing with the public directly. And development inspections has been probably the most challenging group to manage during this time. One thing we've seen, and this is great news for us, is that we've not experienced any drop off in permitting and inspections. In fact, our inspections, just building inspections alone, so this doesn't include site or erosion control or anything like that, just building inspections, we're still running about 225 to 250 inspections a day. So we're still staying very busy. Permitting's been very busy. We've had benefit of great weather, so I think that's helped with that. But we're still staying very busy. And as such, we've done a similar approach with our inspectors as we did with our code enforcement officers. They come in, get straight in their truck. They don't come in the office. They clock in on their phone or on their computer in their truck, and then they head straight out to the field. So again, continue to provide those services. One thing that we did do a little differently, and I've called around, I actually talked to Brentlee's building official, Dwayne up in Woodstock, just to kind of hear what some other folks were doing. But I think one thing we did a little differently is that we are not doing inspections in occupied residences. So for instance, HVAC, water heater, basement remodels, all of those where a home is occupied. We are not going in there and doing those inspections just because we don't know if someone there has been sick, if they've been quarantined, if they've, how their disinfecting practices are in their homes. So just as a way to keep our inspectors safe, we've made the decision not to do that. What we have done with those is we kind of handle each of those on a case-by-case basis. We had one where the home had been vacant for 4 months. In that case, we went ahead and did the inspection. We had another one, if it's something like a water heater or something like that, those sorts of things, we'll deal with those later, it's fine. The other thing that we've done is we've, of course, allowed for third-party inspections on those occupied residences. So that's been a little different. We've always had the process. I mean, you could use a third-party inspector, but it really hasn't been utilized so much here up until this point with some of those occupied residences. Zoning has been another one that's been challenging. So our BOC zoning hearing for March was actually scheduled for March 17th, and the BOC canceled that meeting. We also went ahead and canceled the April zoning meetings. We've just canceled our May Planning Commission meeting. So, we're getting quite a backlog of zoning cases that we want to get cleared out. We have not, to this point, moved to virtual meetings. The Board of Commissioners is actually having their first virtual meeting next week as their regular business meeting. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I expect that, assuming that that's successful, that we will move to virtual public hearings for our zoning. We are still planning to do our May zoning hearing for the Board of Commissioners, just the Board of Commissioners, to try and clear out the cases that were left over from March and several of the other backlogged items, and hoping to resume our full zoning calendar in June. But it's definitely created a little bit of a backlog for us there in the zoning office. Our planning and economic development group, that's really probably been the easiest group to deal with. Really, they can do all of their work from home. So it's been very easy to have them work remotely. We have maybe 1 or 2 GIS folks come in a day or 2 a week if there are projects that really are just not conducive to being worked on a laptop at home. Maybe they need a bigger screen, but again, since we've had so many people out of the office and working remotely, it's been easy to maintain social distance in the office for those staff that are coming in. So we're already starting to talk about what's next, and the county manager has tasked each agency here in Cobb with putting together a reopening plan. Kind of what does that look like? And resuming normal operations, it's anybody's guess when we fully are operating normally again, so to speak. But we are starting to look at that. I think that we've learned a lot through this process. I think we've identified some things, some efficiencies that we've gained, and perhaps we'll hold on to as we move forward. I think we've seen that, there is a lot of opportunity here for working from home. And I always sort of felt like as a government employee, it's tough to do what we do working from home, but really there's so much that can be done now remotely. I expect we'll do more virtual meetings rather than having people travel to our offices. Maybe our plan review meetings will be done virtually now. So there's a lot of opportunities there that I think this time has sort of forced us to embrace, especially utilizing more technology. So it's been a trial. There's been lots of challenges, but I'm proud to say that our staff here is fantastic. We've got a great team. I feel like they really haven't missed a beat. We're still staying on top of our timelines. We haven't experienced any issue with meeting our timelines for inspections or for plan reviews. All of those things have been moving along absolutely as scheduled. So I'm very proud of that and all the great work that our crew's done here at Cobb Community Development. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brantley, and we'll look forward to any questions later on.
Thanks, Jessica. I think at this point, we have the ability to take a couple of questions for Jessica if there's anything specific. And obviously after Brantley's presentation, we will have more time for questions. One of the questions we did get in, Jessica, was around how are you communicating about these changes with the community at large?
Well, we have Cobb County has a pretty extensive COVID-19 page on the county website. So that information has all been put out there, and it's got the information for each agency, not just community development, but of course, we've also got a lot of information on our website specific to how we're doing things here at Cobb. The commissioners' newsletters, several email blasts and what have you have gone out to communicate again just how we're doing business. And at this point, it seems that our users, our community here is pretty aware of how we're operating right now.
Okay, and one more question that came in is there an operations playbook or guidebook that the county is using to make these decisions?
Yeah, we do have a continuity plan that was put together for the county and countywide to handle emergency situations. I will say the continuity plan just didn't really have a whole lot to say about pandemics. So we truly are sort of flying by the seat of our pants here and just innovating as we go along. So I wish that we did have a playbook, but we certainly will have one next time.
Thanks, Jessica. And I think at this point we will move it over to Brantley. I can make that change, Jessica, on my end. And I'm
well, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and it's great to hear from you, Jessica. You are absolutely a hard act to follow. It's great to see all that's going on in Cobb. Here in the city of Woodstock, very similar situation, I would say, to the way we've approached it. We have here in community development here at the city of Woodstock, we have basically 4 areas, 4 divisions: the planning and zoning group, development services, which is our business license and permitting office. We also have building inspections, the building department, plan review, and of course code enforcement as well. Now we have a department of 16. And at this point, we have about 10 remoting in, and then the balance are coming in to the office each day. And this group represents mainly the folks in the divisions I just mentioned, taking care of the day-to-day operations of the department. So it was interesting to see how things kind of unfolded. It was very quick. It was very fast. And, you know, we had begun to transition some staff to working remotely, you know, as things began to unfold. And it was made by the city manager and the mayor and council. The decision was made to close the office to the public on March 17th. And at that time, we signed the front door, and we put information out on how we could be contacted, how business could continue. We wanted to make sure everyone knew that, you know, business, we are open for business, and business is continuing. But there again, we're having limited staff here at City Hall every day. We also, in addition to that, indicated that if you did come to our building, we had a utility billing drive-through window, that if you did have paperwork or had any kind of documentation that we needed to receive or to give to you, we were able to handle that. And we also had bins up front, in front of the front doors as well, for a planned drop off and pickup. Now, one thing that we did is we went ahead and emailed all of our customers ahead of time, to the extent that we could, plan review customers and licensed customers and so on and so forth, and just encourage them to email us, to go on our website. We had fillable PDFs on our website. Much of everything that we can do can be done by email. And so we also were able to issue our permits and licenses electronically, which was really good. And we've been able to do that and keep that moving right along. We were also, as I said, able to keeping, you know, constant contact to the extent we could with our customers. One decision that was made early on as well with regard to alcohol excise tax and some other payments that were coming due is through executive orders from the mayor and the city manager, we were able to extend deadlines for excise tax that were coming due, extend deadlines for other tax and licenses that were coming due. We had already collected the majority of our occupation taxes, business license for the year, fortunately. And so we just had a few of those left. And so we've been in the process of deferring that. Those deadlines and those penalties obviously will not be assessed. So we're trying to work with our businesses, our restaurants, our builders, all of our customers to make sure that that they know and that we are taking care of them during this difficult time. So you mentioned Dwayne Helton, and you can't have Dwayne, by the way. Dwayne's a spectacular building official, and he does a fabulous job for us here in Woodstock. So he early on came up with the idea of actually having the inspectors work remotely, and it was a great idea. We actually implemented it the day before we closed the office to the public, and we did that on March 16th. And basically, we have 3 inspectors in the field that cover the city, and so they were able to basically, they live close by, so they take their trucks home. They report directly to the job sites. On our website, we have the opportunity through Access.my.gov for the builders to schedule their inspections. The builders schedule their inspections, and the inspectors show up in the field to get those done. The social distancing, the distance, actually we talked to the builders about, you know, when these guys are out there, you know, please give them their space, let them go through the home. They will, you know, do their punch list. They will use their iPad. They will get that punch list complete, and then they will upload that to you in a timely manner. And so we've been able to do that. And actually, we're doing a report right now where we're basically looking at our numbers since we closed the door from March 17th to April 17th. And actually during that time, we've done 1,400 inspections here in the city of Woodstock, and we've issued 74 single family residential permits, which is just amazing. But you know, we've been able to keep business moving, our builders moving. We've contacted our builders. We talk to our builders as often as we can to make sure they know what we're doing and make sure they know that we're here. And in fact, the first quarter this year was going to be a record quarter anyway, a record first quarter, but we actually exceeded that amount of permits to hit that record. And we actually, first quarter this year was our best quarter for building permits, single family residential, that we've ever had since going back before the recession. So it's been very busy here, and we're keeping business moving forward. With our building and site plans reviews, we were already making the transition to electronic plan review. And of course, this has greatly accelerated our timeline for that. And we have worked with most of our customers to submit their plans electronically. They've been doing that regularly. Our development services coordinator, plan review coordinator, Jamie Palmer, has done a fabulous job with that, making sure that people are informed on what to do and how we'll accept it and how we will get comments out to the reviewers, who are, many of them are working remotely. We're also working closely with Public Works and the fire department, who are part of the review process as well, part of the site plan inspections as well, to make sure that they're up to speed. We've been emailing the building permits and the LDPs to our customers. And I would say, I think of it as a project pipeline. So we'll take you from public hearing to CO, right? So we'll take you all the way through the process, inspections, permits, etc. And really, the entire pipeline has remained intact throughout this process. As I said, we've continued our 24-hour inspections guaranteed by the city. We haven't missed an inspection yet, and we have had inquiries and questions about third party, but we have not had anybody who has wanted third party at this time. And so we're very pleased with the way that our building department has operated, and it's really been a seamless operation. From a code enforcement standpoint, we do have one officer coming in. He is basically, I think of his eyes on the street. He's kind of monitoring things out in the field, keeping an eye on things. We did suspend, fortunately, our temporary sign permit requirement. And we have a lot of restaurants, as many communities do, who are have to go and curbside pickup and that sort of thing. And so we wanted to make sure they knew that they could have temporary signs without a permit. There'd be no issue made of that. They can, get the word out that way so people know what's going on over there, and that's going to be critical for their survival. And as you all know, we have a lot of really, really good restaurants here in Woodstock, so we wanted to make sure that we got the word out on that. We've also been in contact, and this was kind of leading up to the governor's order as well, as businesses were closing, kind of cosmetology and massage therapy and those sorts of businesses. We were emailing those businesses, and we were kind of keeping an eye on them in the community to see if they were open or if they knew what was going on and that sort of thing. Again, code enforcement's not really to be engaging the public right now. We may send a letter, we may email. If we have most all of the email addresses in the city, fortunately, through our software. So there's a lot of people we can email. We have a lot of phone numbers, and we haven't had a lot, believe it or not, we haven't had a lot of, now it's going to happen, I'm going to have to knock on wood, complaints since this started happening come in, but the ones we're receiving, we're monitoring the progress. We're contacting the owner if we have their information. And really the key for code enforcement right now in my mind is documentation. We're going to be documenting everything very carefully. And then we're going to have a time in the future where we're going to follow up and address something. Obviously, if something's coming to a critical point now, we're going to address it now. But if it's something that can wait, then we'll let it wait and we'll address it in the future. And I do think that we'll have a grace period and a process for compliance. Obviously, as the temporary sign permit is reinstated at some point, as other things are reinstated at some point, requirements are reinstated, we'll have a grace period and a process for compliance. We feel that code enforcement is really a community partnership. And so we want to work with our owners and our property owners, our business owners, and our citizens to help them come into compliance and work with them through this time. And so probably the part of the project pipeline that's been the most challenging has been the public hearing cases. And I know everybody's asking about that. And I was in the webinar that Alpharetta did and Brookhaven did, I think last week, and I thought it was really good. And you know, I was very curious about what people are doing about that. And what we're doing is a couple of weeks ago, we started looking at the opportunity to or the possibility of conducting a public hearing. Our city council actually had a webinar on Zoom back in last week, and it went really well. They used the webinar function on Zoom to accomplish that, and it was extremely well done. Our city management team put that on with the mayor and council, of course, and it went down very well. So we took a look at that. We've been beta testing that platform, and we already coordinate with our planning group, our city planners on Teams, which is MS Teams has been a very good resource for that, keeping everybody on the same page. And so we elected to go ahead and advertise and move forward with the public hearing on May 7th. This will be a planning commission public hearing. As I said, we've advertised it. We're posting signs right now. We're actually reaching out. A couple of these cases, I have 13 cases that are kind of stacked up right now. I'm going to have 3 that I'm going to hear on. We're going to hear on May 7th that we feel are workable that night. And so our planning commission will meet on Zoom. Staff will be on Zoom. The applicant will present on Zoom. And of course, people that would like to speak will also present on Zoom. We're pushing out right now to people who have spoken before. These cases have been kind of in flux, so we have names and emails of people who have spoken at other public hearings related to these cases and public input meetings. And so we're emailing them now, and we're telling them that Zoom is available and they can call in, they can get on their computer. That's available to them. We're also actually going to elect at the city chambers or the council chambers where we have our meetings. We are going to have an in-person option at that. We feel that that is critical to a public hearing, that the public be able to actually come and speak. So we are going to have that available that night. We're going to have the room set up a certain way for people when they come in. They're going to be able to address the podium. We're going to have a computer, a laptop, actually a Surface on the laptop they can address from 4 or 5 feet away that will feed the meeting. And everyone participating will be able to see the person at the podium and hear them speaking. They will also be able to hear what's going on in the room. We're fortunate we actually have a performing arts theater that's part of our facilities, and so we're conscious of the fact that groups of 10 is a concern. So if we have more people, we're going to be able to shuttle them into the theater. We're going to have this streaming live to YouTube, which is a great stable platform, as we know. And so the Zoom meeting will also be a simulcast on YouTube. And so people, after they speak, we're going to be able to go in there if we have that many that come, and they'll be able to hear it in there. This will be the fun part. So we have a couple of rehearsals coming up over the next couple of weeks with our planning commission, with the applicants. We're going to be literally taking the agenda, going through the meeting, making sure that everything works like we think it will work. And on May 7th, we'll have the planning commission meeting. And then our intent right now is that we'll have the same public hearing set up with the city council meeting on May 11th. So that May 7, May 11 is going to be a real quick turnaround time. But we feel with these 3 cases, they're kind of priority cases. We feel like we can do it. We have contacted, of course, we've been in close communication with the applicants the whole time. The applicants are consenting to this format, which I think is critical. And so we've decided and elected to move forward with it. So what I would tell you is, yes, these have been very challenging times. And what's interesting is years ago, I was at another city where we did a plan for the bird flu. And our plan at the time for the bird flu was exactly everything we've done here, which is kind of eerie. So, closing the office, working, I don't know that we thought about working remotely per se, but we thought about limited contact with the public and those sorts of things. So it's very interesting and unfortunate that this has happened. But I think the silver lining for us is that we have, been able to persevere here at the city of Woodstock, because we have great leadership. Our city manager, Jeff Moon, our city management team, our mayor and council, when we've brought them ideas or thoughts, they've said, hey, try it, why not, go for it. So that is refreshing, and that has really empowered us. They've also given us a ton of support with the mayor's executive orders and other decisions that have been made. And we have a dedicated staff that has really made the difference. I think it'll be said when the dust settles on this, we had the right people in the right places at the right time. And that makes all the difference. It really does. And it's very true for us. Frequent communication, we talk to each other all the time, all day. We have MS Teams we use. We have, Zoom, our own Zoom account. That has been great. We communicate very often as we can with the public, and try to keep our customers informed of what's going on. We've tried to be, as we always are, very responsive and proactive. So if we think we need to go ahead and get ahead of an issue or contact someone or address something, we try to go ahead and get ahead of that, and we try to think ahead. And if someone emails us or is calling in, we've got a lot of phones forwarded. We've got a lot of email, community development, department-wide emails. We try to be extremely responsive to let them know we're here. A lot of builders we've contacted have told us, hey, we didn't know you were open. A lot of places are not working, and so we've tried to really get the word out. Hey, we're working, we're active, we're here. And our numbers are showing it with the 74 permits we've done since we closed the door, and the 1,400 inspections, which we're very proud of those guys getting that done, as I said. And so I would say that we've worked as seamlessly as possible with our staff. They've done a fantastic job working with the other departments here at the city as well, done a fantastic job. And we've held it together. We've kept it together, kept it moving forward. Everybody working remotely has been very, very good, very productive. It's amazing what we've been able to do. And really, we're already talking now, looking ahead, of course, about reopening and what that looks like. And so I feel like, what we've been able to do here is we've really been able to position ourselves very well to reopen when the time comes, and everything keep moving forward, as best as possible. And I think, that's been our goal all along, to keep our projects on schedule, to keep everything moving forward, to keep everybody working that's working. And so we're very proud of our team and our group here at the city, and they've done a fantastic job, and our customers have been very gracious and patient with us, and we appreciate that as well. So we appreciate the opportunity to highlight that today. And like you, many of you, we have been going through challenges and trying to figure out what the next step is, and working through it as best we can. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and thank you so much for that, Sam.
Thanks, Brantley. So, at this point, I would say for folks to send in their questions. There's a fair number of questions which are already lined up, and I will start going through them really quickly as well. So the first thing, again, this is fairly new information, obviously, but one of the questions we got was with the governor's recent order as it relates to reopening, what are the city and county's plans to reopen? I know Jessica touched on this a little bit, but just wanted to see if you all had some conversations already.
I'm glad to take a stab at that. We're actually meeting tomorrow with my management team here to talk about that, and I've asked all of my managers, to put together a plan for how are we going to handle reopening. We don't have a timeline for it. We don't know what the date is. I expect that the Board of Commissioners will probably have some discussion about that at their meeting next week, as far as when the county will really begin to reopen. But what we've talked about is that as many people as possible should continue working from home. That's still the plan. We want them to continue social distancing, being at home, so that way those who are not able to work from home can come back in. We have some people who are working from home, some people who are home not working because their tasks just weren't really essential. For instance, like my administrative assistant is just at home. So to start bringing some of those folks back who really don't have the ability to work from home so they can do what they need to do here. So that's the biggest thing is it's going to definitely be a gradual process. We're starting to talk some about, at what point do we start going back into the occupied residences? But really the big thing is I expect that for probably several weeks, we will still continue to have people working from home. At some point, we will probably step back like we did when we started and begin inviting the public back into our space, but again, in a very controlled ways so that we can really limit the number of people who are in our building and still really encouraging people to do business with us electronically.
Thanks, Jessica. And as a follow-up to that, before the pandemic, did either Cobb County or the city of Woodstock allow its employees to work from home?
Cobb County has a work from home policy that does allow for some teleworking. It's one of those things, though, that the policy was adopted years ago and it really was never heavily utilized until now. So there's been some changes, some updates to the teleworking policy, and I expect that countywide we will probably continue to see more and more teleworking. One thing that was kind of interesting that I meant to mention, and this is not so much work from home, but having our inspectors just come here, get right in the truck with their computer and just get right out into the field. They have about 2 hours more a day that they're actually out in the field getting inspections done. So we're really excited about that increased efficiency. And I think that enabling and having more opportunity for people to work from home also will help us increase our efficiency as well as employee morale. So we're looking forward to that.
And I would just add that we didn't really have a formal policy for working from home, but we had the ability to have had the ability to remote in for quite some time, and we have a lot of staff that will use that from time to time. But this has certainly been an eye opener for us as well on how we might go formalize policy like that for sure.
Thanks, Brantley. This is a question we got at our last webinar as well, which was on how do you conduct municipal and public meetings. Jessica and Brantley would love to hear your thoughts on it. Have you been providing county zoning staff with county-owned laptops to work from home, or are you requiring them to use their own computers to do county work?
Here at Cobb County, most of the computers that we have are desktops. We did have a handful of laptops that we were able to get out to our employees. IS was able to help us get a few more, but it has been kind of problematic because a number of our employees are having to use their personal computers to VPN and do their work remotely. And of course, that creates some issues with cybersecurity. So our IS department has a lot of concerns about that. They've done a lot of training there and lots of testing on that. But moving forward, my goal for the agency after, as we come out of this is moving forward as we replace computers and community development, we will only be getting laptops, and it just doesn't make sense to have a desktop anymore.
And in our case, fortunately, many of our staff, some of our staff had laptops, but many of them are using their personal laptops to be able to remote in. So we were fortunate that we did have the capability where they were able to log in and work from home that way.
Thank you. Another question for Jessica here. Has the county attorney determined you can fully meet the requirements of the zoning procedures law through virtual meetings?
That's really what he's been looking into is how those public hearings would be conducted. And we actually have a call Thursday with the county attorney and the county clerk's office to talk about, okay, what could we do through virtual meetings and still be able to adhere to the laws pertaining to public participation and
Okay. Again, this one again, I think, Jessica, coming to you is, how has the retirement of the county manager on April 1st affected the county's response to the situation?
It really hasn't. Dr. McMorris, our new county manager, was the deputy county manager prior to taking on the county manager role. She was appointed. It was before we really started the COVID-19 process, started dealing with that. And so whenever we started addressing this, all of the coordination pertaining to COVID-19 ran through Dr. McMorris even prior to her taking on the county manager role, just knowing that she was going to be moving into that county manager role during, while we were still doing this. So, I mean, she managed everything along with the agency director. So it was very seamless.
Okay. This one is for both of you. In terms of having gone through this experience, one, what would you say was the biggest lesson that you have learned?
Come on, Brantley.
Oh, you want me to go first this time? Okay. I think you learn, as I said before, we all know it. It's true. Hiring is critical. It really is. Getting the right people in the right places, as cliche as that sometimes can be, it's really true. And I think you really find out what teamwork really means to a lot of people when, you go through a time like this. And we've talked a lot about how the recession was and things like that. But I mean, this has just been, nothing like that, really. I mean, this is just so much more intense. There's so much at stake. There's so many factors involved. But clearly there's a lot we can go back and do to prepare for any kind of calamity. Maybe a little bit better. Maybe think about things a little bit ahead of time. Operationally, what would we do? A little bit more planning on that end. But we really have seen our staff shine and the dedication come through. It's been amazing, and we're not surprised by it. We knew we had good people, but it's just they've all stepped up and done a great job. And so when the rubber meets the road, who can you count on? And we really have seen that we have a great group here that we can count on, no doubt. And that's really citywide, not just here in community development, but across all the departments, leadership as well. So we've learned that, and we've learned that, when somebody tells you that TP is available at Publix, you better get over there quick. So we learned that as well. So.
I think for us, the lesson here is that government doesn't exactly have a reputation for being flexible and for turning quickly. And particularly Cobb County, and Cobb County as a whole is a large organization. I think we've learned, though, that we can be nimble. Just that we're the government and the wheels of government turn slowly, that's not an excuse. We can be nimble. We can change on a dime if we need to. And I think just seeing that if we really put our heads together and open ourselves up to being flexible, new ideas, not sold on, well, this is how we've always done things, we can get a lot accomplished. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited that our staff has seen that. I'm excited that our community's seen that. And I think that, as we move forward, a lot of the things that the county has really put off doing, taking more and more stuff online and making the agency easier to work with, I think this will help us to accelerate some of those initiatives.
Thank you, Bill. I think that's a great note to close out the webinar. And so as we bring this webinar to a close, both Michael and I wanted to thank everyone for attending today. Of course, depending on the nature of your question, please feel free to contact any of the folks that you see on the screen for further information. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you will receive a follow-up email within 48 hours with a link to access a recording of today's webinar, as well as a survey to share any feedback with us about today's meeting. Before I close out, Michael, any closing remarks on behalf of the council?
Thank you, Sam. I just want to echo our thanks to Brantley and to Jessica. Great job today, but most of all, thank you for what you and your staffs have done under these circumstances. Really looking forward into this issue and getting these problems solved, and just keep on working 24/7. So thank you to you all, as I know all of our community development directors and their staffs are doing. And I also want to thank Kimberly Steele, who is our senior policy analyst at the council, for working so hard to put this day together and this program together. So please give your thanks to Kimberly as well. Sam, thanks.
Thanks, Michael. So again, on behalf of the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Council for Quality Growth, thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.